Okay, now I know what I did. New software, folks. Let's try this again. Okay, this has been bugging me a lot lately. I recently had a long telephone conversation with a pretty successful network marketer who's building his business on social media. He built a pretty sizable business over the last several years, and I was listening to him because I was really wanting to understand how it was working for him so well. I also wanted to learn from him, and I was open to what he was telling me because I really don't like the way Facebook herds people like cattle by controlling their feed with the algorithm. That's in Facebook's best interest, not in mine or not in yours. And he was making some progress with me, but then toward the end of the conversation, he said this to make his final point. It's social proof, Kevin, implying that it didn't matter if it was true. The proof was a collected bunch of people who were under a sort of self-reinforcing hypnosis on what made being in that group a good decision. Maybe he didn't mean it like that, and maybe it was my bias at work in me. Now, I know that term social proof because I had just watched a PBS documentary series called Hacking Your Mind, and it's really a great series to find out how these large corporations and media companies and even your own upbringing contributes to how you think, how you don't think objectively, and how you make very poor decisions based on a lot of psychological aspects and how your brain is hardwired from the time you're born until you enter the consumer marketplace, and people in the political and business settings who are much more crafty than you take advantage of that hardwiring. And it also explains why people in general, and even myself, make snap decisions about others based on race and gender and religion and ethnicity. So anyway, when he said this, he used it as the justification for how he built his business as big as it was. I didn't say this to him because I didn't want to hurt his feelings, and I actually liked the person, and I don't think there was any malice in him about it. But I didn't think he would hear what I would have to say anyway, because he probably didn't understand this about social proof in the way I do, because the proof was real to him because he was making a much bigger check than I am. So I thought it was terrible that he knew what he was doing, but he did it anyway because he basically justified his entire business model on using the concept of social proof. It was kind of an end justifies the means argument. People like to be liked, and they want to feel included in a group of something that they can identify with. And this can be either a good thing or a bad thing, depending upon the groupthink at issue. Walter Lippmann said it like this: when we're all think alike, no one thinks very much. And Warren Buffett made this observation: the 5 most dangerous words in business are everybody else is doing it. My proclivity to think independently has had me excommunicated from a lot of groups in my life. I never seem to have the comfort and reassurance of any group for very long, even though I try really hard to fit in. I'm kind of in my own lane as a people-pleasing antagonist. Rejection isn't fun. I watch Dr. Phil occasionally, and he says this sometimes to a lot of his guests who are fighting with their spouse on his television show. And it makes me cringe every time I hear it. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Now, most people want to be happy. I certainly do. So they will put up with group error in order to fulfill that desire. I'm not like that. And like I said, I want to be happy, but I would much rather be right or as close as I can be than be happy. And it's antithetical in my mind that I can live in that type of state where anywhere where I'm just being agreeable in order to keep the peace. I wouldn't be happy doing that for very long. Well, what if Dr. Phil was on the payroll of the Third Reich and his sole job was to counsel people who were opposed to Hitler's agenda of the final solution? Which, if you don't know what that was, it was the complete extermination of the Jewish race. They could bring the guy in from being imprisoned and tortured for his independent thinking, and Dr. Phil would throw that line at him in his signature Southern drawl: do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? That's not a great Dr. Phil, but I over caricatured him. There's another saying that goes, ignorance is bliss. Now, I don't know who came up with that, but Solomon said this about wisdom. Because in much wisdom, there is much grief, and increasing knowledge results in increasing pain. It seems the farther I go down this road of self-enlightenment and find out how the world actually works, the more it seems I'm separated from people. Most people would rather not deal with the truth if it's contrary to their already accepted beliefs. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that, like many of the people I've met on Facebook especially, they're wonderful people. I don't agree with everybody, and I'm sure they don't all agree with me, especially when it comes to my views about network marketing. Some people are as irritating to me as I am to them, probably. So in closing, I would just say be careful about what you believe to be proof, even if you like or are friends with a lot of the people who subscribe to any specific thing. Just because you necessarily like the people or want to be liked by them is not reason enough to accept something as true. I take a lot of these issues on with my blog posts, and they're particularly pointed at many of the social proof fallacies of the network marketing industry. And you can check out that blog page on my profile if you'd like to read more of my crazy ramblings. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to check out my lifestyle supplements, my website is glyco-health.com, which is also on my profile, and you can get some free information there on what I market. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. I hope that one worked. I think it did.